lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from?
Greetings, everyone. Pastor Nathan of Grace Lutheran Church back again with another edition of the Semicon Vids for this upcoming 24th Sunday after Pentecost. We are near the end of the Sundays after Pentecost, as in a couple weeks it'll be Christ the King Sunday, and that marks the end of the church calendar. And the church calendar then starts up again in Advent, which comes, it's November, the last Sunday of November, whatever it is. I have a calendar right here, but it's in the wrong month. November 29th. November 29th will be Advent 1, and that's when we'll be moving into new church calendar. We'll see. And maybe next year, even if we're not in pandemic, maybe we'll do these Semicon Vids again for next year, which is year B, the year of Mark. Whether or not people watch these or not, they've been pretty fun to make. So I may continue that. We'll see how it goes next summer when the semi-continuous series comes back. The semi-continuous readings come back in our lectionary cycle. But the semi-continuous readings for this coming 24th Sunday after Pentecost is Judges chapter 4, verses 1 to 7, and then Psalm 123. Psalm 123. You see that I am at home. I was at church today, but I didn't get a chance to record before I had to leave to pick up my kids, who are home now and are awake. So I'm just hoping that they don't come barging in. They think I'm in a meeting right now, so I thought it'd be best to quickly record this before they think that I'm done my meeting. So let's before we get to these readings, let's start with a word of prayer. The Lord be with you. Let's pray. O God of righteousness, you overcome those who abuse their power, and you lift up those who suffer. Even now, when evil seems to hold sway, we know that you'll have the last word. Keep us faithful as we wait and watch for your coming realm, when you'll welcome all your children into your kingdom of justice, peace, and love. Amen. I should say that these prayers again are from the Feasting on the Word series for liturgies and stuff, and this prayer I got is from there. I know it says, it sounds funny, it says, even now when evil seems to hold sway, and we just had the U.S. election last week, and it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the readings that we're going to get in a couple moments. So it has nothing to, I didn't write this in light of that or anything. Just to make it clear to all of you who are watching this, I'm not saying that whatever is happening in the States is evil, or that the people in power, which at this point it looks like the Democrats, I'm not saying that they're evil, or governments in general are evil. I'm just saying that prayer has specifically to do with the readings that we're going to get. So again, the semi-continuous first reading is Judges chapter 4, verses 1 to 7. And last we heard, I think Joshua just made it into the promised land, and they're all kind of happy and doing their thing. And a lot of time has passed since then. 150, 160 years or something like that. So a lot of time has passed. They're just jumping ahead because they know that the series is almost up. So they just jumped ahead into the story. And Joshua is long past at this point, led the Israelites to many victories, including, of course, getting to the promised land. And after Joshua had died, there's been a series of judges who had helped kind of usher or lead Israel, and kind of like tell them what God is saying, acting as their prophets and stuff like that. So that's the time of the judges before it came the time of kings. And so they were kind of not ruled or controlled, but they were governed by a series of judges that they had. And so this book is called Judges, actually. It comes from the book of Judges, and it's just talking about one episode that kind of changed that whole, the era of euphoria or whatever, and it kind of changed a little bit. So again, this is Judges chapter 4, verses 1 to 7. The Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord after Ehud died. So the Lord sold them into the hand of King Jabin, the Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in, oh boy, Harosheth Hagoim. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help, for he had 900 chariots of iron and had oppressed the Israelites cruelly for 20 years. At that time, Deborah, a prophetess, wife of Lapidoth, was judging Israel. She used to sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelites came up to her for judgment. She sent and summoned Barak, son of Abinoam, Abinoam from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, "The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go take position at Mount Tabor, bringing 10,000 from the tribe of Naphtali and the tribe of Zebulun. I will draw out Sisera, the general of Jabin's army, to meet you by Wadi Kishon with his chariots and his troops, and I will give him into your hand." The word of the Lord. And the semi-continuous psalm for this 24th Sunday after Pentecost is Psalm 123. To you I lift up my eyes, to you enthroned in the heavens. As the eyes of the servants look to the hand of their masters, and the eyes of a maid to the hand of her mistress, so our eyes look to you, O Lord our God, until you show us your mercy. Have mercy upon us, O Lord, have mercy. For we have had more than enough of contempt, too much of the scorn of the indolent rich, and the derision of the proud. Psalm 123. Yeah, sorry about that. If you want to check that up again, you look it up yourself. For some strange reason, I just don't recognize that word, and the way it's written here, it looks kind of strange. Either case, I'm not going to do it again because, like I said, I have very limited time before one kid comes running in, and I have to edit that out. Anyway, so these readings, coming in a time like this, getting a reading like this and that prayer that I prayed, we just had the U.S. election. It's still all over the news because there's a dispute as to whether the election was a fraud or not. A lot of strong opinions on both sides, and it's tough. It's tough to see our neighbors. I mean, we're Canadian, or at least I'm Canadian, and I'm assuming that a lot of people watching this are Canadians. It's hard for us to see our neighbors to the south of us arguing and bickering like this, and kind of finger pointing and saying like, well, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. So on and so forth. And then we see this. We see a story like this where the Israelites did something. God gave them up to this king Jabin, whose name we saw before. Actually, I don't think we saw. Another king Jabin had fought Joshua before this, when Joshua was still around. But I don't think it came out in the semi-continuous readings. But either case, this is another King Jabin. This is maybe a grandson or great-grandson or whatever. This King Jabin ruled over Israel for 20 years. And so things weren't going so well. But then Deborah, this judge, goes and calls Barak and says, hey, this is what God says. Go into war against this King Jabin and his commander Sisera, and you'll win. You'll defeat the evil, and the land will be yours again. You'll have your freedom again. And a lot of people look at this and say, like, oh man, that needs to happen. We need deliverance from whatever evil it is that we're facing now. And maybe for you, maybe the evil is the Democrats. Maybe the evil is the Republicans. Maybe the evil is just government in general. Maybe the evil is just something in your life or whatever. And we look at this and say, oh, God delivered the Israelites from their evil, so God will deliver us from our evil. And I don't like to put an exact label on that evil because I don't know what it is. I know I just listed out a whole bunch of examples of what they could be, but I don't want to, and I choose not to, label any political party as evil. I choose not to label any person as evil, anything as evil, but rather I know that all of us have struggles. All of us have something that we come up against, and it feels evil to us. So maybe it is one of the political parties. I'm just saying. I don't know. And we think that, well, God has to deliver us from this, but why doesn't God do it? And maybe we think that maybe it wasn't the evil, or maybe it'll come, or so on and so forth. All these different ideas that we try to parallel ourselves in this story. And I was reading something earlier this week, not about this, but about something else, saying that a lot of times when we look at Scripture, when we look at the Bible, we look at the stories and stuff, we always try to find ourselves in the story and say, well, what is this? Who am I in this story? What does this mean for me? And so then when we talk about the evil, then we think, well, what's the evil for me right now? But the thing that I was reading was saying, instead of looking for ourselves, instead, let's look for God. What is God doing in the text? How is God revealed in the text? And thus, then, how can God be revealed in our own lives? And when we look at this text, we see the Israelites, didn't have it all that good. We think, oh, wow, they were delivered from that evil. But don't forget that they were under that evil for a while. They were under oppression. They were treated harshly, or cruelly, it says, for 20 years by this king, whatever his name is, Jabin. So they were treated cruelly by this King Jabin for 20 years before God delivered them. And this is something I remember learning back in the day too. And this is a cycle that the Israelites go through. I mean, there'll be this time of, yay, everything's good, yay us, God's awesome. And then they do something. They do something wrong, like say, make an idol out of a calf or whatever, or out of gold. An idol calf out of gold, whatever. And they'll do something like that. And then God says, oh man, forget you guys. And then they go through a period of oppression or scarcity or something that would remind them how just utterly deprived they are, depraved, and then they cry out to God, say, hey God, we're wrong, we need you, you cannot, or please don't abandon us in our time of need. And then God says, okay, all right, I'll forgive you, and then it goes around again. So everyone's like, yay God, kind of thing, and then they do something bad, then something happens to them and they say, we need you, God, and then God helps them, and so on and so forth. So it goes in this cycle, and this is part of that cycle. You see, it says that God the Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord after Ehud died, and so God said, okay, well, if you're going to keep doing this, then go on. And I'm not saying that God punished them, but God maybe I think it was the evil that they did that caused the hardship that they had. Like, I'm not sure what the evil is. It didn't specify in this passage, and I don't remember all of my Old Testament history to remember what it was. But they did something nationwide, that they participated in some kind of evil, and they were oppressed for it. I mean, maybe not God saying like, hey, King Jabin, oppress these people and teach them a lesson, kind of thing. But it was more like they separated from the promises of God. They separated from kind of the guidelines that God set out for a good community and all that kind of stuff. And they fell into oppression. And they cried out to God and said, hey, we need help. And Deborah came and with the help of Barak was able to deliver them again. And so this, instead of telling us that we do that all the time, that we do something evil, then something bad happens and we cry out to God, and then God forgives us, so on and so forth. I think the lesson is that God is forgiving, that God does watch over us, and maybe not be on our timing. Maybe it takes 20 some odd years. Maybe it takes 4 years or whatever. But I think God will deliver us, whether it be in a way that we think or not. Maybe in hindsight we think, oh, I see how God has delivered. I see how love shone through. I see how community stayed together and helped to lift us up out of whatever situation it is. And again, regardless of what political party that you're rooting for or whatever, or belong to, we can't deny that there's a pandemic going on. Whether you believe in the pandemic or not, there is a pandemic going on, that there is a virus that we know very little about still. We know more and more every day, but we still, comparatively speaking, know very little. That is kind of sweeping the globe. And we are well into a second wave here in BC. Just yesterday, on Monday, the 9th, recorded almost 1,000 cases over the weekend. So almost 500 a day. We had just broke 400 on Thursday. So in the course of from Thursday, Friday, then we broke 500. Then Saturday, I think we had 500. And Sunday, I think we had 500 again. Then to Monday, we just had just under 500. So it's growing, like it's pretty huge spike. And so, yeah, we'll be worried. We'll be worried about the well-being of our elderly, the vulnerable, our children, and those people who just can't stop partying. We worry about the well-being of our economy, the well-being of our province and our nation. But I do believe that we will be delivered from this. I do believe that God will save us from this pandemic. That doesn't mean that miraculously a vaccine will come out of thin air and will cure us all or what. Nor do I think that, tomorrow all of a sudden no one's sick anymore. I don't think that's how God delivers us, but rather I think God will help us to see what good can come out of this pandemic. How have we as a people evolved? What have we learned? How can we take this as a point of growth for us as a society, as a people, as just a human race? And how can we be propelled in the future because of it? And maybe there will be a vaccine soon. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not working on it myself. So I don't know what the future holds, except that God will be with us, except that we'll continue to look to God. Like the psalm says, to you I lift up my eyes, to you enthroned in the heavens. Like God's majesty and might will remind us that God is, I don't like to say in control, because that sounds like God is causing this pandemic to happen. But I think that God is present and revealing things to us, leading us through this, helping us, shining a light on our path, so we know which way to go. We know how to maneuver and how to get through this. And I think that is that's hope, that if we look for it, that God will be revealed, that God's presence will be revealed, that God's promises will be revealed, that God's peace will be felt, and that God's love will be felt. But we just got to look. Sometimes we get really kind of down, and we get kind of deflated, defeated, and we just think, oh man, can't do it anymore. But take heart, for God continues to hold us. God continues to lift us up. God continues to have mercy on us, and remind us that we are loved. Sometimes that's a tough pill to swallow. Sometimes it is hard for us to hear that kind of stuff, but I believe that it's true, and I believe that it's the hope that will carry us through the rest of this pandemic and always. So we can hold on to that, hold on to it and cherish it. As we near the end of this church year, we can kind of go with a bang, knowing that although like more than half, like most of it, like 90% or whatever it's going to be, 80% of the church year will be engulfed in this pandemic, that God was still praised throughout the pandemic, that our community still thrived, that we still grew, and we are still loved. And it's tough. I mean, the next while will still be tough, but I believe that together we'll get through it. I hear my kids screaming. I don't know if you can hear that in the back, but I think it kind of broke my chain of thought. I was pretty much done anyways. So that is what I have this week. I pray and hope for God's blessing upon you this week and always, as we can just seek out God's peace, love, and joy in this pandemic and always. Thanks for watching. I hope to catch you next week for the last Semicon Vid. Peace be with you.
My help comes from you, maker of heaven, creator of the